do you think the president has been able to overcome the political pressure, you know, coming from an election? There are people who supported him. There are people who expect to be giving an appointment here or there. Do you think he has been able to beat that and make it as competent and professional as possible?
No.
Looking at that list.
No, the answer is no, Ben. And I don't think any marking scheme was expecting the president actually to really beat it. Not this time, because I think where he scores 100%, he is a loyal president. He is a loyal friend. I mean, he comes out as a person, I promised I will do this, I must do it. Now, these other peripheral issues, whether, you know, he has stuck to peripheral in the sense of expectations. They are not peripheral issues when you talk about competence, when you talk about regional balance and the competencies and all that. But I just quote unquote say peripheral, looking at where we have come from. Look at the way those who actually brought in a large number of votes have been rewarded. We will say competence and all that. I mean, I agree entirely that I guess out of the 9,000 people, they were competent. But there are certain negatives you look at when the number of applicants is so huge. So at least you use it to, you know, leave others out so that you remain with the people you want. If you look at the fact that about 477 people were shortlisted at first, and later another 108 list was brought in. This is all for political expedience. And we cannot blame the head of state in terms of, I mean, I've got to do what I said in my campaigns because there are people who supported me. And he was so open. He said, the guys who especially came from Jubilee with him, I mean, he was so thankful to them. So I don't think there is anybody who really expected him to put competence above that level of loyalty, because it is what they agreed first before it happened. So I don't think we can really go that trajectory of competence and political, you know, expediency. Nobody expected him to do better than what he has done. The only problem, Ben, is the hype and the deceiving or cheating that it will be any other way. I don't think as a country we have become a strong democracy where we completely disregard, you know, these, people who are around you who want to do this, who want to support you, and then you ignore them at the end of the day. Whoever wants to ignore his friends who he has worked with during campaigns, actually we have himself to blame at the end of the day.
But looking at this list, Wakili, you actually, not many politicians, quote unquote, jump at you. It doesn't have a lot of politicians, so to speak. What does that mean?
What we are saying is, I mean, you're driving and there are two side mirrors. It's not just one. I mean, you can decide to look at the right side of the mirror and ignore completely the left one. You are still driving. Right. What I'm saying is, by all means, I already congratulated these brothers and sisters who have made it to the nominations. That is okay. I mean, to be appointed. That is okay. But it does not mean that the rest of the 8,500 plus or 8,900, that they were probably, you know, not competent. The issue here is you must reward your friends. At least that is Kenya, that's for sure. Number two, you must look at the people you trust in your best way possible. If you think it's because of tribe, if you think it's because you are together in school, if you think it's because they supported you and they support the party, those are the considerations for now. And nobody can convince me that it was a question of what you've scored in school, how you have worked as a person, you know, in the civil service. No, there are those, like I said, like Kipsang Belio, for example. You look at Kimutai. These are civil servants who have been there for a long time. And these ones, you can say there is both competence and the professionalism. But I don't want to mention names, but if you look at the others, the truth of the matter is they have been given this position so they can serve the president. And to put another marking scheme that it's because they were better than XYZ who applied for the same position is actually to deceive the citizens.
Mark, how tough is this balancing act for the head of state?
No, first, let me correct my good friend. First, we need to understand there was a vetting exercise, and it was not a vetting exercise conducted by the president. And of the names he received, those are the names he received that, according to the vetting exercise, were better. Now, that better is not something that we can argue here, because the list that was given to the president went through a process. Now, of that list, whether you want to take the 140 or the 500, of that list, there was a secondary participation. And what was that participation? Loyalty, the ability to understand what the president wants to deliver. And in some cases of some PSs who've existed before, the continuity of what the president wants to carry over from the previous administration. And one of those things is, of course, is housing, which we see PS Hinga being carried on. So there are those considerations. And granted, and let me be very clear, in any administration that comes in, and if you look at the United States, there are 10,000 odd jobs that change every time there's a new president. Why? Because you need people who carry the spirit, the understanding of what you want to do on into the administration. But how tough a balancing act was this? Number one, President William Ruto is serving his first term, which means he has his eye on the second term. And if you have an eye on the second term, you must first look and ask yourself, which communities voted for me? And the truth is, you've got to look at the Kalenjin community, you've got to look at the Mount Kenya community, and then make sure that you consolidate those communities within your cabinet. This is bare-knuckled, real politic for this country. That's what you've got to consider. And if you don't consider that, then you're doing a fool's errand. So the president had to balance that. But secondly, there's also the regions upon which you hope to get more votes in future, regions that you hope that by incentivizing them in a certain way, you will be able to get more votes in the future. Areas like Ukambani, areas like Luyaland, areas like the coast are areas where, if you're looking to be re-elected in 2027, you want to begin to give them flashcards saying, you know what, this is a place that is open and welcome. So there is that political angle. But the second thing is, if you look at how he's appointed his principal secretaries, it's not just about regional balance. For him, it's also who is going to deliver. Because if you look at the list of CSs, he had a lot of political people, some people with baggage. We saw the discussions in Parliament. I do not see such a thing occurring with the permanent secretaries. Why? Because he has chosen a lot of technocrats to be able to deliver. And that should be a big indication of how the president aims to actually rule for the next 4.5 years or so.